Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast. I am Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. I'm here with the big guy, as usual, Matt Vi. How's it going, Matt?
Absolutely fantastic. You know it is, Ben. You know it's always
That's always doing fantastic. We don't ever. I don't even know why I ask. But anyway, we have an amazing guest today.
Absolutely.
You guys can see him on the screen, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we introduce him and get him in here, so we want him in on the conversation. We have Stuart Elliott. He's a life coach, and man, I got a laundry list of amazing things to say about Stuart. But I'm going to touch on two or three just because I want to make sure you guys understand. He's a life coach. And a little bit, of just his expertise. It's not like he just, made a sandwich one day and walked out and said, I think I'll be a life coach, right? That's not how it works. He has certifications in classical and new code NLP, certification in Ericksonian conversational hypnosis, certification in hypnotic mind-bending languages, and so many other disciplines. Let's get him on here because, again, all this is, way over my head, and he's the smart guy when it comes to this. Stuart, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and it's great to be here. And, I don't know about me being the smart guy. I'm just a regular person, All I do is talk to people.
Same here. Same here.
Yep. I love it. Well, I think all of our listeners are gonna find out that you're the smart guy when it comes to this on this episode. Guys, before we dive into this, make sure you hit that follow button, that subscribe button, and wherever you're listening to this, and also go to Brokerpreneur podcast. Check out all the cool things Matt and I have to grow your brokerage. So I'm seeing your background, Stuart. Right, I know where you are. Right, we've already talked, a couple of times. Tell us a little bit just about where you are and how you got there, and a little bit about your background of how you even got to what you're doing right now.
Okay, so I was born in the UK, as you can probably hear from my accent. And back in '86, I decided to do an overland trip through Africa and spent 6 months traveling through Africa, and then got back to the UK and decided I want to go back to the sunny parts of the world. So I went to South Africa, stayed there for 18 years. And then as life, as happens, life took a few turns, and everything started falling apart. And I was offered an opportunity to come to China to teach English as a second language. And the only question I had was, is it north or south? Because if it's north, it's too cold. I'm not interested. It's like the far north of Canada. But they said, no, it's not far from Vietnam. So I said, no problem. And I came here to teach English as a second language. But along the way, I was trying to figure out why. Why was my classes so successful? Why was I the most popular teacher? Why did I get the highest scores? And, during that journey, I went to the UK to study NLP with John Grinder, who was one of the founders of NLP, and then also later that year to Amsterdam to study Ericksonian conversational hypnosis, or hypnotherapy, however you want to phrase it. And somewhere along that way, I suddenly said, now I know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I was able to use those skills and that knowledge to better, help the students. For instance, I had a kindergarten class, six students, and I was teaching them anagrams of colors. I was writing the anagrams on the board at the end of the class, and they were just recognizing the colors, but at the same time, they were also passively learning to count to 30 to 40 to 50. So, it was just seemed so natural, but the teachers couldn't figure out how I did it. And then as I moved on, to different schools, I came to a private school which had more young adults and middle-aged adults. Either they wanted to emigrate or study abroad, or they were doing business abroad. And with the one-on-one classes, the people trusted me so much that it started becoming life coaching sessions. And that was so much more rewarding when the people suddenly had a solution, to a problem they had. And you could see it just came from inside them, and they smiled. That was more rewarding. So it was a natural progression. But there's a lot goes into it. It's, the whole life journey, and looking back with gratitude for all the things that have happened, the bad things, the good things, everything. That really is a big lesson for everybody to take, that we never look back with regret, always look back with gratitude for everything that's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I got to get you to share the golf ball analogy that you used with us. Okay. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think that plays a lot into, what you just said about people having, what's inside of them, and getting to a point where they can share it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, a golf ball, as we all know, is a small thing. And if I ask people, what is a golf ball? What does it mean to you? a lot of people just say, oh, it's boring, or it's this, or it's frustrating, or it's hard, or, you know, anything like that. But if you look at a golf ball and you try and get inside it, there's a shell, there's a very, very hard casing, which is difficult to get into. And when I was a young teenager, I decided I want to find out what's inside it. So I'm there with a hacksaw, my father's vise at home, and trying to get this ball open. Eventually I got it open, and it's just full of elastic bands or pieces of rubber wrapped around a core. And this is like the happiness we have inside us. We've got this hard shell. And once you break it, you can't get that happiness back inside. You can't get those rubber bands back inside. It's almost impossible. And, you know, this is my mission, is to help break that hard outer shell that could be boring. It could be dangerous. It could be this, it could be that. But, you know, that's how we are as people. We have this protective front. It's not allowing us to be free.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And, you know, and the way that you do it, you know, is super cool as well. You know, a lot of us have heard of NLP. It's super cool. I know that, you know, what was his name? John Grinder, right? You actually, you know, were able to like work with him. So that's like
Incredible. Yeah.
extremely incredible.
He's an amazing person.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that one single bit. From a hypnosis standpoint, right? And I just want to touch on this briefly, right? Because all of us have this, you know, we're taught through cartoons, right? That, you know, you hang a pocket watch in front of somebody, right? And, you know, and you know, then you tell them, you know, you count to 3, or you see all these videos, and it's so much more, right? It's so much more than I think really and truly what people view hypnosis at, or hypnotherapy. And I just want you to kind of uncover that a little bit, and then we're going to really dive, you know, deep into the coaching aspect of it.
Yeah, well, if you think of the pocket watch analogy, that is more the formal hypnosis. And there are some people who need that. You know, we can do a lot of work with conversations, because all we're doing is we're bypassing the front part of your brain, the critical factor, which is, you know, making all the sort of nonsense choices, shall we say, and keeping us occupied. But if we can keep that, you know, somewhere out of the way, then we can get into the unconscious and let the unconscious do the processing it needs to do. And sometimes, you know, there are quite a few hypnotherapists who have done all the work they needed, and the person's ready to go, but they just need that formal hypnosis. So they say, well, where's the hypnosis? Okay, no problem, let me get the watch out. And they do this. And then the guy's happy. and they go away, they do all the changes. You know? That's the way we are as people.
Right.
The work's been done beforehand, and it's done in the conversation. And, you know, the thing about hypnosis is it's a way of accessing a natural state in ourselves. We all go into trances when we drive. We do things on automation. Yeah. When we're cooking, quite a lot of us do the same thing, or we're watching a movie, or we're reading a book, or whatever. It's a natural state of being, and it's just so powerful, because we're doing all these things without thinking about it. I mean, do you ever think about your breathing consciously? Some people do, because they train themselves to, but they don't. You know, they don't normally do it, but our body's regulating it, it's looking after us, it's you know, doing all these things for us. And hypnosis is just a way of accessing that. And if we just take an analogy to, you know, stage hypnosis, because a lot of people have this perception that, you know, it's all about this trickery and making us look fools of ourselves. What they don't understand, a lot of people, is that people who buy the tickets, they're giving their implicit acceptance to being made a fool of, or to go on stage and perform. And then when they end there, the hypnotist who's, you know, doing the show, he's picking the audience, he's looking for compliance, he's picking people, and he will choose people who he thinks are compliant, and he'll give them a test on the way to the stage to see if they're compliant enough. You know, they'll start walking this way. No, just go that way and go that side, you know, because, you know, for some other reason. And if they comply, it's great. If not, then he moves on to somebody else. So he has a way of selecting the people who are most likely and most willing to perform. So it's not about tricking people. And the other thing I think, which is very, very important, is that the unconscious mind is a protector. It protects us. That's its role. So we can't do anything without the permission of the other person.
So I know what I know what all the brokers that are listening to this are thinking. Is there any way that we could do some hypnosis to just convince people to come to work for their brokerage from a recruiting standpoint?
Well,
So I think what we can do is sell them all like a watch that they can put in
Has
front of
Stuart's
people
face on it.
that has Stuart's
yeah.
face on the face of the watch,
Well,
right?
maybe you get a prettier face, but you know, the thing is, when NLP was first introduced to the public, that's what a lot of people latched onto, the manipulation side of it, and it got a bad name for it.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's worth understanding that we can use these tools because it's about rapport. It's about getting in, you know, communication with the other person and understanding the other person, because you can't hypnotize somebody if you're not on the same wavelength.
Right.
And, you know, one of my great people, you know, from the States, who he died sadly in 1980, Milton H. Erickson. One of his favorite sayings was, "Enter into the other person's world," and that's a big thing to do. And in business, wherever you are, enter into their world and understand that you, as the communicator, whatever message you've got, you have to present it in a way that the other person can understand. And I had a wonderful lesson about that when I was teaching, you know, a class. I had this one student who's about 8, 9 years old, and he couldn't understand a single thing I was trying to teach him. The point I was making, he couldn't understand. And I started getting frustrated in myself and started trying to force it down, you know, more directionally, more verbally, more, you know, dictatorially, if you like. And eventually I gave up and I said to myself, he's stupid, you know, he's never going to get it. So I went away. And after the class, I had this habit of just going through whatever happened. And I suddenly said, Stuart, you're stupid. He's already shown you he doesn't understand the way you're trying to present it. And you're just trying to make it hard, you know, force it down more and more and more. Right. So next class, I came along and presented the same thing from a totally different direction. Ding! Lights went on. He understood it. He smiled. He's the happiest person in the world.
And he felt like a winner. Lesson. Yeah, he felt like a winner too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I hadn't understood that my message was the problem, the way I was presenting it.
So there's so there's a lot to be said for that in the recruiting world from a broker standpoint, right? And
everywhere, yeah.
And so brokers a lot of times will do the same exact thing, the same exact way, the way that somebody else said that this is how you should recruit. This is how you should go hire someone. This is what you should do. Send them all of this and all of that's going to work. And they're literally trying to force those people into a box to see if they fit instead of just meeting that person where they're at. Instead of being active in the listening, instead of really trying to deliver value that opens the rapport and the relationship, which allows them to really figure out where that person is and meet them where they're at. So what you're talking about, I mean, we don't say it as articulate as you do, and we certainly don't say it from the brain science side that you're saying it from, but that's what we tell people all the time. You can't just force the same old way of doing things on people and expect to get a different result. It's just not going to work.
No, and there's something I'd just like to pick up on what you said there, actively listening. I always tell people they don't listen with the ears, they listen with the whole body.
Completely agree.
And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people are listening to answer rather than listening to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. That happens a lot, especially when people are pressured, right? So going back to the real estate broker, right? They put a lot of effort into getting that appointment to be able to sit down in front of that recruit to potentially be able to see if that recruit is somebody that would be a good fit for their office so that they can hire. They're feeling pressured. And as soon as they're feeling pressured, instead of just sitting back and going, okay, I want to meet this person where they're at, really see if we're a good fit for each other, really listen to what they're going through, really figure out if what I offer is a great fit for them. Instead of doing that, they're thinking about all the effort that they put in to get to that point, and they're thinking that they have to get the win at that point instead of seeing what a win would actually look like for both parties. So so what you're saying is absolutely, we love it. That's spot on with what we talk to people about on a very regular basis, Stuart. That's excellent.
Yeah, and just to go a little bit further with that point, when I was traveling through Africa, I was in Kenya and we were camping outside in the bush near Masai Mara. And we were sat around the campfire, it was nighttime, and suddenly out of nowhere, 3 Masai warriors appeared. They just materialized into sight. And they started talking to us. They were nice and friendly and everything else. And I suddenly thought, this is my opportunity. I've always wanted a Masai spear. And I've got this wonderful electronic calculator. And this was back in 1986 when scientific calculators, first started coming out. I thought, I'll be able to trade it, no problem. I'll get this spear. Well, what was I doing? What was I
That's a great
doing? I didn't
example.
have any respect for him. I didn't enter into his world. I didn't have any understanding of what his world was. I gave him the calculator to look at, and he played with it and he understood it. But he handed it back very nobly, very, he was so nice and so gentle about it. But he just said, "What use is that to me here?"
Mhm.
I didn't have
That's a
anything
great
of
point.
value for him, and I didn't understand him. I didn't even, looking back, I didn't even have any real respect for him as a person, as a human being. That's a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great point.
Hey guys, this episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast is brought to you by the Speculo Group. The Speculo Group is the turnkey solution for agent and brokerage lead generation. With a focus on generating the highest quality leads from platforms like Google, YouTube, Facebook, and more, the Speculo Group is your one-stop shop to dominating your local market and beyond. Visit their website for more information at thespeculogroup.com.
That's a great story. Stuart, I'm going to probably have to steal that story from you. And
You're welcome to.
I'm going to repurpose that. And I'll leave your name in it. I won't say that I was by a fire in Kenya. I'll say a guy I know named Stuart who was by a fire in Kenya and the Maasai warrior.
Yeah, and that's the thing about stories. We collect them. We need to collect them so we can use them at the right time. And it doesn't have to be a personal story. It's something we overheard or something a client we talked to or someone, just a friend. It doesn't matter. A story is a story. And that's how we evolved as people, listening to stories.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's the best way to learn.
It is.
The story is the best way to learn. It's so captivating. It's so engaging. And I agree. That is an amazing story. It's one of the ones I have highlighted here in my notes. So I'm glad that you brought it up.
Well, I tell you what, though, at the time, I didn't think it was amazing. I felt this big. I wanted to disappear. But, age gives you wisdom. And if you couple that age and wisdom with gratitude, then I tell you, it's amazing what you can learn.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Stuart, there's a lot of other people that have had a bunch of other stories happen in their life that didn't hold on to it and didn't learn from it the way that you just did and aren't able to share it. And so that experience did not expand them the way that it could have. So I love it.
It will come back to them until they do learn.
I completely agree. It didn't go away. It didn't go away. They just don't remember it. It's running in the program in the background for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how how you said they didn't let that allow them to expand. Not only did Stuart do that, but he's allowing it to expand to others. Outside of himself as well, which is spectacular. That's part of being a coach.
Absolutely.
Part of being a coach is not necessarily having all the answers. Right. It's sharing the experiences and kind of bringing those experiences to the forefront.
Because it's not about having answers. It's about letting the person make the decisions which are right for them and giving them the opportunity to explore the inside, the inner resources that we've all got, and not telling them what to do.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Well, you talked, we went back in time to 1986, and I want to kind of go back in time as
keep going back.
Yeah, I was 5. You were dealing spears in Kenya. So, but that being said, a lot of people maybe wouldn't believe this from the conversation that we're having and the fact that we're all doing this podcast. But you were shy.
I still am.
Yeah, and still am. Yeah, it's not really something that just goes away immediately. I get that.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about what you do and how you do it, and but also sharing these stories and sharing these experiences, yet still having this shy introversion along with it.
I think the shyness, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was one of the most wonderful learning points in my life. When I was a teenager, I'd go to parties and I was the, original wallflower. I'd be sitting there, as far away from people as possible, hoping, praying, please, somebody come to me and talk to me. Because I can't go and talk to people. I don't know what to say, and I don't even think they're going to be interested in me. So I'm sat there all the time, but nobody came to talk to me, and I used to go away disappointed. And it took me a long time to understand that I was actually learning to read people, to see body language, to feel the energy, to see all the changes, all these things that I would not have done if I was involved in the conversation, or it would have taken me much longer. And that is a benefit that came with hindsight. And I think it's something that I'd love to share with everybody, that if you're shy, look at it not as a hindrance, but as a learning point, because you can see so many things that other people don't even see.
It's a great
And,
point.
obviously, there are times when, shyness will creep up on you again, but be grateful for it, because there's a lesson to be learned again from that. But,
Yeah.
you're talking about going back in time. That was in the 70s. I've had a long time to process all these things, a lot of life experiences. So if I can share those through stories
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
help somebody else make a change, that's beautiful for me, really.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and again, just bringing this full circle back to our listeners, these brokers, maybe I think there are times when you're shy in certain circumstances.
Mhm.
You're not necessarily shy in other circumstances.
Right.
When it comes to recruiting,
Mhm.
man, there's a lot of shy brokers out there.
Absolutely.
Right. I'll ask both of you, right? Because, you've been in that position, and obviously, Stuart, you have a lot of expertise behind this, and whoever wants to go first, go first. I'll give the microphone to Stuart. How does someone say, man, this is something that's very difficult for me to do? I'm kind of shy about it. How do they get past that, or do they get past that, or what does that look like? How do they do this action that helps them grow their business?
It takes courage, that's for sure. It
Mhm.
takes courage. But there was a wonderful article I read about somebody, a hypnotherapist, helping somebody to get over the fear of public speaking.
Mhm.
And he said, the first thing you need to do when you go on stage is tell everybody how shy you are. Tell
Mhm.
everybody you're going to make mistakes, and say, please laugh at me, because I want somebody to get some fun out of this presentation. And that was the icebreaker. He did, and they all laughed and they all relaxed. And one of the big things, especially, when you're talking to people, is if you're scared, if you're shy, you make the other person the same. You make them fearful, you make them on edge, because they don't know how to react to you. So laugh at yourself. If you trip up, just laugh, just make fun of it. And, it takes courage to do, and it takes practice, obviously, but the more you do it, then the more you'll find the unique way to you that will allow you to get past that and, be yourself.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think that's spot on. I was going to say part of it is authenticity, right? Being authentically you and going out there and putting out who you really are, and being very straightforward with people about who and what you are. I think say this on a pretty regular basis, right? Competency breeds confidence. And so if you're doing things in a competent way because you're really prepared for them, because you are ready, and you do know what you're going to say, and you do have an understanding of what your icebreaker is going to be. If you're prepared in that way, it makes it a lot easier for you to feel confident. That's why we talk a lot about, how the appointment should break down, and how it's different than an interview, and how you have to make sure that you're saying certain things in a certain way, and having comfortable conversations, and how to relay them, and how to transition. We talk a lot about all of those things, not because we want everyone to recite them the same way that I would say them. That's really a key thing. I want people to feel competent in their plan. Their confidence will come across, and it's going to allow them the confidence to be authentic, to have authenticity and be authentic, instead of whatever word I just made up.
Authentic.
Authentic. I just like boom.
I like that better. I'll be honest with you.
It's good. That's a good word to use.
We're going to coin that one. So,
yep.
and that way, and that way, whenever you're talking, so if you're great at planning, then plan if you're going to public speak, if you're great at planning, then plan it. If you're not great at following a plan, the worst thing that you can do when it comes to public speaking is try to have this 58-step plan. It's just not going to work. So being authentic and having, being able to be competent so that you can be confident, so that you can be authentic, I think would be a very critical step in that. And I'd love to hear your insight on that and see if you think I'm on track or off track on that.
it's 100%. It all starts with the planning and understanding your subject. Obviously people can judge a fool, someone who's making things up, left, right, and center, but they're not forgiving in that case. But if you know your subject, but you make mistakes, they appreciate that because they understand you're human.
Right.
And if you go out of your way, obviously, once you've got all the background information, as you say, if you go out of your way to think about your clients, where are they? Meet them where they are. What is it they need to hear? Not what is it I want to give them?
Right.
What is it they need to hear? And that takes you out of yourself. It takes you out of thinking about yourself. So you don't have time to be, embarrassed or shy or anything else, because you're focused on your client.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that as well. And, and I want to mention, one thing that I'm really kind of pulling back from this, everything from the golf ball to the stories that we're sharing, and really active listening to the people that we actually want to reach, the people, the agents in our circumstance, from our broker standpoint. What is it that they really want from you? What is it that they really want from your brokerage? And knowing that, there's too many times when you're going through an interview or you're going through the appointment setting process, and they may say, gosh, I really just need some help with my marketing. And, you immediately go to your checklist and you're saying, well,
right,
we have Dot Loop that helps you with your contracts or whatever. Right? You're just going through your motions. And then, you sit back and you wonder, man, I wonder why that agent went somewhere else, or I wonder why this happened. Or I wonder why they didn't do that. There's so many little lessons, this entire podcast that I would say, please go back and listen to it. If you're a client of ours, Stuart's going to come into the Brokerpreneur Live, here in a few weeks and actually kind of do a deep dive with us. So we'd love that. But go back and listen to this and say, what are some opportunities that I missed where if I would have just opened up my body, not just my ears, like Stuart said, open up my body to actively listen, that would have made a world of difference in my recruiting or just my brokerage growth with the agents that I have internally as well. So,
and if someone's coming to you for advice, a very good question is, tell me more about that.
Yeah,
because that gives you the avenue to find out what it is they really mean by, I need some help with my marketing, or I need some help with this, because you take your, an assumption straight away. Okay, this is what he needs or she needs, but we don't know what they really need. So if you ask them a question along those terms, then again, it takes the pressure off you, because you're listening to what they're looking for, and then you can answer the way that they need to answer.
Yeah, and going 3 deep, right? I mean, ask them and then ask them a little bit more about it, and then ask them a little bit more about it. And so a lot of times what that'll have them do is it'll have them really expose what it is that they really truly need help with. And they will appreciate it, one, because they feel like they're being heard. So whenever someone says something and they give you an answer, and sometimes it's a default or kind of the cursory or the topical answer, we'll call it.
Yeah.
They give you that, and then you ask them again, well, tell me a little bit more about that, and how did you arrive at that, and tell me a little bit more about why that really matters to you, and if you could change one thing about that, what would it be? You start asking questions like that, and now all of a sudden they start to open up, and they feel like they're really being heard, and they really feel like you care, because you are stepping away from what it is that you want to do, which is hurry up and answer the question. You're making sure that whatever it is that you're going to offer is truly where they're at. And so, asking those, going into the conversation even deeper, that's absolutely fantastic. I love that too, Stuart. That's killer.
Yeah. And you've made that connection with them, haven't you? Because you've actually listened to them. And, the world is such these days that very few people really listen to another person. Even in relationships, family relationships, we don't hear our children, we don't hear our spouse or our partners or whatever. In companies, in business, we don't hear. We're trying to push. And if you ask those questions, quite often, the person gets the answer just by answering the questions. So it's a win-win.
Right. Yeah, and they feel empowered by that. Which helps, self-esteem, and helps your relationship with them. Again, there's so many different ways to win with that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Stuart, I want to make sure that every one of our listeners gets to connect with you. Like this, like super important, to every single podcast that we have. I know for a fact that, we converse a lot on LinkedIn. I know I have all the information that you had given me before, as far as URLs and things. I'll make sure every bit of that goes into the to the description underneath this podcast. But I want to ask you personally, if one of our listeners says, "Gosh, I want to actually reach out and meet this guy," right? This sounds amazing. I want to learn more. What's the best way for them to connect with you? What's the best way for them to learn more about what you do? And share that with us.
I would suggest the best way is for them to get on a call so we can have that conversation and just start building that relationship. That's the most important thing, that I can find out what it is they really want. And again, if I'm not the person to help them, I'll refer them to someone who is more qualified than me. I mean, I had a lady who had a challenge that she wants to work with, and it's not my field. So I'm referring her to a couple of other people so that she can have a proper conversation with those people. So as long as I can help in some way, that's what it is. And the easiest way to book a call with me is just send me an email. And that's Stuart, Stuart, at spg.bz or BZ in America. Sorry, I'm from the
UK. Yeah, well, just like I said, I'll make sure that Z's and Z's, whatever everybody wants to call them, that they're in that description, and we can make sure everybody gets connected.
And there's no obligation. I mean, I'm happy to talk and share and just have a conversation. That's really what it's about. And if I help them in that conversation, great. If they need more, that's also great.
That's exactly right. Well, we're super grateful that you're here and that you came on to share with us. I can't wait to take this even deeper and dive into that, in our community as well. So super excited for that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to put a little bow on it, Matt, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. We super appreciate it. We're grateful that you came on and shared with us for sure, Stuart.
Well, I'm grateful, obviously to you, to the both of you, but also to everyone who's listening. And hopefully they get some value. If they just take one little piece of value, then it's worthwhile. So, thank you for the opportunity to share my stories.
Of course. Well, guys, if you didn't get one little piece of value out of this one, you're struggling. Right? There's a lot of value in this, and we appreciate you guys so much for listening. Matt?
Yep.
If they're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching us on YouTube, we all saying hello, and hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside it, to get notified every time we drop a new episode. It's no better time than the present. Then go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Check out all the cool things that Matt and I have to grow your brokerage, no matter what phase or stage of the business that you're in. Stuart, again, thank you so much. We're super grateful. Matt.
Yeah.
We do these for one reason and one reason alone. Tell them why that is, my man.
Because we just want to be part of your win. Thank you again, Stuart.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.